If you want the real news, the news they don't want you to know, stick around. If you want to hear something today that'll really get you infuriated, get you ticked off, stick around. Now, we've talked about this issue down here in Venezuela quite a bit. This is the Lima Group. This is a whole bunch of leaders of the country of South America where they're uniting against Nicolas Maduro and his corruption and his dictatorial authority, and how we're going to isolate this country, destroy its economy, and put its people in starvation, and maybe consider entering this country with military force. Now, never said that Mr. Maduro was an angel. Never said, definitely said his vice president is a very dangerous man. But I cannot stand hypocrisy. You think Nicolas Maduro is bad? Let me show you something. Now, this is USAID. There's your website, explorer.usaid.gov, a dashboard. The reason I have 2016 brought up is that it's the only complete year where all 217 countries have reported aid. But it gives you a breakdown. It shows you, generally speaking, where most of the aid goes. The darker the color, the more the aid. Now, clearly, we can see, and we've shown this before in other videos, that all of this aid goes over here to these corrupt, Sharia-run, drug-dealing, slave-owning, thug leadership countries. It's undeniable. Now, I know there's going to be a lot of people, keyboard warriors, are going to come out and say, well, that's why the current administrator is going to drastically cut all that and cut all that out. Well, 2016, right? 2017. Here's where it's all going to change, right? Now, yeah, it's only partially reported, so you don't get all of the stuff from Europe and some different countries, but golly gee, it sure doesn't look to me like it's changed. In fact, that country looks a little bit darker. It really does. Quite a bit darker, actually. Now, why would that be? Here we are. But the worst leader on the planet right now is that little tiny country on the very northern part. The real dark one next to it, the one that's completely overrun with terrorist organizations like the AUC, the AGC, the ELN, the FARC, the Oficina de Envigados, the Sinaloan drug cartel, the one that's been responsible for most of the drug violence in the hemisphere in the last 60 years? Yeah, that one. The one that gets $500 million every year from the U.S.? I wonder why. I wonder why Colombia, which has been the model for corruption, the model for terrorist activities and how to not run a country, still gets money. But you take the rest of these countries down here, Peru included, and add them all up, and they don't equal Colombia. But forget over here. Here we're talking about billions and billions and billions of dollars to these countries. Now, there's one in particular that I wanted to talk about. We've talked about the Nigerian president who's going to be visiting, has been invited cordially to visit the White House. His name is Muhammadu Buhari, and you can look this up for yourself. I wanted to go a little bit more detail into what it qualifies you to be invited to the White House, the types of things in your history that are perfectly okay to get you a seat at the White House. 1975 coup. He was only part of a group of officers here that overthrew another military government. General Yakubu Gowon, whatever. Okay. And he was a military guy. And, oh yeah, Federal Commissioner for Petroleum and Natural Resources. I wonder if that's going to maybe come into play later. Let's see. Here's an interesting fact. 78 to 79, he was military secretary at the Army headquarters and was a member of the Supreme Military Council from 1978. 1979, 79 to 80, rank of colonel. Attended the U.S. Army War College in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, and gained a master's degree in strategic studies. And then he also did this 2-year distance with the War College as well. So clearly he came to the United States and he learned about how a constitutional government should run and what the role of the military is and how the rights of the people are very, very important. That's what he learned here in the United States in 1978 to 1980. Let's see if that actually plays itself out. Oh, look, December 1983 military coup. Major General Buhari, leaders of the military coup that overthrew the democratically elected government of President Shehu Shagari. At the time of the coup plot, Buhari was the general officer commanding of the 3rd Armored Division. And then they put this guy, Tunde Diagbun, whatever the hell that is. Look him up. He's another real wonderful individual. And the reason that they said for this coup, I thought was very instructive here. A flawed democracy was worse than no democracy at all. Now you think, well, yeah, but that's kind of how they all over there. Oh, it gets better. It gets better. Hang on, you're going to love this. Head of state, structure of the military leadership was also the 5th in Nigeria, resembled the last military regime. They have a supreme military council. And they put out all of these decrees. Now you're going to love these decrees. It's amazing. This is where he's rebuilding the economy and basically reorienting it toward being self-sufficient. And he continued the foreign policy of the previous guy. I know this doesn't sound like it's all related, but it is. The Umaru Diku affair. Umaru Diku, a former minister of transportation under the previous civilian administration of President Shagari, who fled the country shortly after the coup, was accused of embezzling $1 billion in oil profits. There's that oil thing again. With the help of With the help of an alleged former Mossad agent, the NSO, Nigerian Security Office, traced him to London, where operatives from Nigeria and Israel drugged and kidnapped him, placed him in a plastic bag, which was subsequently hidden inside a crate labeled as diplomatic baggage. The purpose of the secret operation was to ship Diko off to Nigeria on an empty Nigerian Airways Boeing 707 to stand trial for embezzlement. This is a guy that was educated at the War College. U.S. War College. And here's those decrees I was talking about. Freezing bank accounts, recovery of public property with special military tribunals, and investigating assets, exchange control. Listen to this. This is what he ordered. One of the most enduring legacies of the Buhari government has been the war against indiscipline. Launched on 20 March 1984, the policy tried to address the perceived lack of public morality and civic responsibility of Nigerian society. Unruly Nigerians were ordered to form neat queues at bus stops under the eyes of whip-wielding soldiers. Civil servants who failed to show up on time at work were humiliated and forced to do frog jumps. Minor offenses carried long sentences. Any student over the age of 17 caught cheating on an exam would get 21 years in prison. Counterfeiting and arson could lead to the death penalty. We covered this before, but he himself, of course, went to... well, it wasn't him. I shouldn't say that. Suitcases being transported by the Emir of Gwandu, whose son was Buhari's aide-camp, were cleared through customs 10 June 84 without inspection. On his return flight from Saudi Arabia, gosh, I wonder what was in them. And it just goes on and on. Power to detain without charges individuals deemed to be a security risk for up to 3 months. This guy was doing the Patriot Act in 1984. Jailed a singer because they supposedly had foreign currency, exporting foreign currency. And was doing 5 years in prison, only got out because somebody finally overthrew that guy. And this, boy, I tell you what, if you ever been with my videos, when we talked about the 25-point program of the Nazis, and they talked about prosecution of known lies and the control of the press. 84, Buhari passed Decree Number 4, Protection Against False Accusation Decree, considered by scholars as the most repressive press law ever enacted in Nigeria, probably, period. Yeah, any person who publishes in any form, whether written or otherwise, any message, rumor, report, or statement which is false in any material particular or which brings or is calculated to bring the federal military government or the government of the state or public officer to ridicule or disrepute shall be guilty of an offense, tried in open military tribunal, unappealable, and fined not less than 10,000 of their whatever naira, and a jail sentence of up to 2 years. And they've put 2 journalists in jail into this. So this is the guy. This is the guy who's coming to Washington. And I find it interesting that there's been calls for him to step down because he's sick with this mysterious illness that nobody knows what he has. I wonder what he's actually bringing from Africa to Washington. But I had made a couple references to oil, and I think we found out what the real reason he's coming is. Oh, look at this. Nigeria's Buhari hints at $15 billion deal with Shell. Says we are not doing too badly. Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari met with Shell on Wednesday as part of talks that could lead to a $15 billion investment in his country. Well, there you go. Imagine that. And this was just published like an hour ago. This was the linchpin. I was waiting for this. I saw Shell Group. They came here. They saw me. They are preparing to invest $15 billion in Nigeria. So really, we're not doing too badly. So, just to be clear, just to put a point on it, nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. When you hear about Nicolas Maduro and how, oh, he's so terrible, I mean, he's having elections. They may, be one-sided, but we've seen that our elections aren't exactly clean and clear, are they? And then you look over here, and you see all these thug dictators that jail singers, that whip people who don't stand in lines proper way, and the president of Nigeria also promoting Sharia in a way that it's the best thing since sliced bread. Tell me anything has changed. And just so you know, fiscal year 2017, nothing has changed. Nothing has changed at all. We are still picking winners and losers here. Colombia's getting its $500 million. Africa is still getting tens of billions of dollars. I don't want to hear anything about Israel, by the way, in this particular case. As far as aid goes, they get $3 billion. The Muslim world gets 20 when you add up all these Muslim countries. It's not even close. So, I'll leave it there. Hypocrisy on display. Like, share, subscribe.